folks, Wish SE up here in New Hampshire. It's a rainy day outside, otherwise I'd be doing this at the range, but today we're going to be talking about AKs versus ARs. Now there are a million videos on YouTube about this subject as if it's a huge controversy. I think the reality is both platforms are excellent and work extremely well. What really comes down to is what is the defined mission that you're looking this particular gun to fill. So if you're saying I want a gun for home defense, personal protection, I want a gun that's just going to work no matter what, all those kinds of things are important considerations, but you really want to start with what's the purpose. And if the purpose is home defense, personal protection, and maybe you're just getting into firearms, then what I would recommend that you do is, rather than trying to figure out which one, is go out and try a buddies. Get someone who owns both platforms and shoot both those platforms and figure out what you feel comfortable with. There are economic situations and considerations that you really want to look at. One is, how much money can I spend on the rifle that I'm going to use for a defined purpose? And the other is, how much shooting am I going to do? What is the ammunition cost? And am I going to fire, the bare minimum to gain the skills and then just, set it aside in my safe and only pull it out if I need it? Or am I going to be someone who, like me, I just can't wait to get out and shoot at the range any day that I have free time? I'm going out to the range, so I'm, shooting tens of thousands of rounds every year and spending a lot of money on that. So I do look for economies of scale in terms of the kinds of ammunition that I shoot. So let's start on this side of the table with our AR platform. You can get into a fairly basic AR, and in this case what we have is we have a Stag Arms lower and a Bushmaster Dissipator upper, and it's got the conventional A2 stock, carry handle, the whole thing. Now this rifle to build or to buy is somewhere going to be the $500, $600, $700 range, depending on what components. You can start with a strip lower and really build yourself the rifle you want. Pick all the parts and do that. It's not a particularly hard thing to do, and that might be something to consider. Would I feel that this is a good self-defense tool? This one right here, $700 rifle? Absolutely. Do I feel confident in the way the rifle will function for my needs? Absolutely, no problem whatsoever. Is it accurate? Yes. Is it reliable? Yes. Will it function? Yes. So, from that standpoint, AR platform, a great platform. Same thing on the other end of the scale. If we wanted to start, let's say, with an AK type of platform, we might get into a less expensive AK variant. In this case, what we have is the SAR1. But there are other types out there, and you might spend $500 to $600, or in some cases even less, on this type of very basic AK platform. Now this works great, and I love this rifle. I've shot thousands of rounds through it. It functions extremely well. It certainly is accurate as I would need from a self-defense standpoint. Again, I'm not trying to get 250-yard accuracy. I'm not going to Camp Perry with this gun, or any other gun for that matter, because I'm not a good enough precision shooter. And precision shooting is fantastic, but if that's your goal, then you really want to select a platform, probably a platform that's really geared toward precision shooting, and set up the gun for that. So this AK SAR1 is really, I bought it, I think at the time, for less than $400. The ammunition for the 7.62x39 is relatively inexpensive at this point. We're still talking about a couple $100 a case, just a little over $200 per case, versus almost $400 a case for the 5.56 ammo or 223. Now that's not to say you can't find better deals, but you are talking about a significant difference in cost. So if you want to shoot a lot, and I recommend you shoot enough to be really effective and proficient in the gun, which means practice. So if you're going to practice, the economics associated with the 7.62x39 cartridge, or even the 5.45x39, the AK-74 variant, might be something to consider. And I just think that this platform is fantastic. Now, as you kind of go up the scale, one thing that's nice about ARs, of course, is the fact that you can just accessorize the heck out of them. So you can start with a very basic platform, and then you can say, okay, you know what? I want a collapsible stock. I want tactical rails. I want lights. I want red dots. I want to change the pistol grip. And you can do that with AKs as well, but the aftermarket parts for the AR is so large that you can really do whatever you want in terms of playing around with the ergonomics and the setup of the gun. Again, this rifle's set up for a little more tactical use. I'm not going to be running into buildings or anything like that, but I enjoy shooting and I enjoy understanding aspects of the gun. So, I've tricked this gun out a little bit, and Colt lower, DPMS upper, and then we've got all kinds of gadgets and gizmos on here. So is this rifle as effective as this rifle in terms of its round or magazine capacity? Yeah, the same thing. This might give me an edge in terms of its optics and in terms of its attachments because it has the rail. So the AR-15 platform, again, great platform, very effective, and will work extremely well and just fantastic. Love it. You can also do similar stuff with an AK. In this case, we have the Arsenal Las Vegas Sega receiver. This is made by Arsenal Las Vegas. And this is an SGL 2166. And you can see I've done quite a bit of stuff to it and talked about this rifle a lot on the channel. So similar to the AR-15 that I've tacked out, this rifle is somewhat tacked out now in terms of lights, and in terms of grips and whatnot, and attachments for slings and upper rail, peep sight, all that kind of stuff. So this rifle is certainly more expensive than this SAR-1, but they both fire the 7.62x39 cartridge. They both take the same magazine, and they're both very effective from a personal or home defense standpoint. So your average citizen, myself, is probably not going to be in an environment where we're worried about things like, do we have enough lubrication on the gun? Do we have access to that? Do we have the tools to maintain that? We have those things in our home. Yes, it's important to plan for a bad scenario, and in that case, you want to have backup parts, you want to have stuff. But if somebody said, okay, well, you can only take one rifle with you and you have to leave your house, I'd be hard-pressed between, my AR-15 and, my SGL-21. And that's because I think they're both really good platforms, and I think I could find, again, if I were running out in the middle of nowhere and I had to leave for some reason, or the poop hit the fan, there are probably other places I could buy, barter, or trade for ammunition. These are fairly common. It is a little easier economically to stockpile, ammo for this rifle, to have a little bit more ammo for this just from an economic standpoint. But as far as, what you or I, or your average citizen who's in a defensive mode versus an offensive mode, the reliability of these platforms is very good and comparable for what we need it. Now, if we're sent overseas, sent to the sandbox, or sent to some really adverse climates, jungle climate or something like that, and we didn't necessarily have oil and tools and whatnot to work the guns, make sure that they were running from a maintenance standpoint, I might lean toward the AK, simply because the AK has been produced and used in some of the worst areas of the world, and whether it's jungles of Vietnam, high humidity, just garbage in the gun, rust, the whole thing, or really sandy conditions, or really cold wintry conditions, the AK has definitely proven itself. That doesn't mean I don't think this is also a good platform. It just means that there are potentially some benefits to a gun that is set up to really run dirty in really bad conditions, and is somewhat, from a mechanic standpoint, relatively loose. There's a lot of movement, and the reason for that, obviously, is to shoot it in more adverse conditions. You sort of have a precision design gun here with the AR with its gas impingement, and then you've got a piston system, gas piston system here, which if you see slow motion shots of AKs, there's, everything's bending and moving and shaking, and you also have just the inertia of that bolt running back and forth every time versus a gas impingement with the buffer tube up here mitigating that, and also the round itself and the 5.56 versus the 7.62 by 39. So for me, bottom line is there is no winner. I can't wait to get all the responses on the comments from our subscribers, but there's no clear winner. What it comes down to is define the mission that you need the firearm for, and then plan appropriately for that. Train appropriately, have the ammunition, have the spare parts, and those kinds of things. Given the fact that we are probably coming up with the anti-assault weapon ban, and I call these guns anti-assault weapons because that's what they're used for. They're used as they did in Los Angeles, those Korean shop owners on top of their stores when there were mass looting and destruction. They had anti-assault weapons, and those anti-assault weapons stopped people who wanted to take their stuff from coming and taking and destroying their stuff. So I do think that there will be an anti-assault weapon ban or attack in the next few years. I think the government is moving in that way. Obviously, you should go out and vote based on that if that's something that's important to you. Given that fact, and given that I expect to see more gun control regulations, which of course do nothing for crime but make people feel good, given that fact, I do recommend, if you're interested in a black rifle of any type, an anti-assault weapon, that you purchase it now, and that you buy some extra ammo and you buy magazines. Magazines right now are extremely inexpensive. You can get the Magpul 30-round magazines for $12 to $13. So buy 10 of them. So what? Because if and when the ban goes through, and I think it will at some point, that $13 magazine will become worth $50 or $60. So it's a hedge on inflation. And finally, I would recommend also, buying some ammunition. It doesn't hurt to have ammunition. And if poop hits the fan, things like firearms and ammunition will have barter value as well as being able to help protect you and your family and your loved ones. So that's my perspective on AKs versus ARs. There is no clear, decisive winner. They both have tremendous value. They're both excellent platforms, and quite frankly, I would recommend that you own maybe a couple of each, as I do, because they're really fun to shoot, and they're a great thing to have. They're a part of history, and they're certainly something that any serious shooter wants to have in their collection. Certainly appreciate your support, all the great feedback we've received on the channel. I encourage you to like this video, the little like box in the bottom left corner, and any other videos that you see on my channel or anyone else's. This does help us grow the channel, and in addition, I would ask you to share with this video, this channel, with your friends and family. We'd love to have them on board and continue to talk about our passion for the right to keep and bear arms, and understanding of the value of firearms, and continue cross education of safely using these guns, as well as just our general passion for the shooting sports. So thank you all very much for watching, and I'd ask you, as always, stay safe.